So, I've reviewed A Quiet Place before. I rated it 3.5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. In the review, I went on to compliment this movie, and only compliment this movie. I talked about how John Krasinski has shown himself to be a very competent director and deserves all the praise he is getting from this movie. I talked about how the performances, especially by young and deaf Millicent Simmons, were fantastic. I mentioned that the movie's main gimmick, being silence, was executed extremely well and really added to the tension of an already scary movie. I also briefly noted that the creature design in this film was outstanding. If you'd like to read the full review, there is a link in the description below. So after my initial viewing, I rated this film a solid 7 out of 10. After seeing it for a second time, my thoughts have changed. I don't think it's a very bad movie. I still would recommend you see it over most of the films playing in theaters now. I just don't think it was as mind-blowing as it was initially. So I'm going to hit some points in this video, discussing plot holes other reviews have brought out, talking about some continuity issues, and just some general things I found a bit more annoying than the first time. So a spoiler warning is in order due to the fact I will be talking about specific moments in the film. So if you'd like to hear my final say without spoilers, click to this point in the video. Okay, so let's jump right into my first topic, the plot holes. The biggest one that's going on right now is directly related to the one scene in the movie where John Krasinski's character is speaking to his son near a raging waterfall. We soon learn that the noise is so loud that you can do almost anything around it and nothing will hear you. A lot of people have been saying, well, why don't they just move near the waterfall if they don't want to be heard? My answer to this is that, well, where are they going to live? It's right next to a waterfall. There isn't a lot of place to build a shelter for a soon-to-be 5-person family. It was probably easier for them to just stay where they were and be quiet than try to move everyone to that area. Another complaint lately is, why didn't the main girl in the film realize that the high frequency in her hearing aids was repelling the monster sooner? This one I get. The movie takes some time to prove through dialogue that this character is really smart and knows her way around. So why wouldn't she find it suspicious when her hearing aids were acting up? I guess this one will never be answered. Maybe that's why they call it a plot hole. Now let's talk about the creatures. I'll be referring to them as Angels of Death for the rest of this video, due to the fact that there is a newspaper that calls them this sometime in the film. These things are so inconsistent when it comes to what they can and cannot hear. In one scene, the Angels of Death are able to hear a lantern break in the middle of a pretty large and carefully soundproofed house, but in another, it can't hear a baby crying under a measly mattress and a boy running through a literal cornfield. So there were just a couple of times where the movie forgot what its creature's one rule is. They react to any and all noises that are loud enough for them to hear. Also, if their hearing is so good, wouldn't they be able to hear breath? Meaning the characters would have to hold their breath if it was near? That would have been interesting to watch. Moving on to a couple of pacing issues. There is one scene near the middle of the movie that includes the leading man and his son returning back from the outside. They stumble upon a dead man, and another man is standing above him. He obviously has just seen this man be murdered by the Angel of Death. The man then proceeds to scream in order to kill himself, and John Krasinski picks up his son and puts his mouth over him to make sure he doesn't make a sound. This whole scene feels like it was added in just to make sure we remembered there was a threat, which is bad. That means the film thought we were forgetting what the main purpose of the story was, which makes us feel like we're dumb. That is not good. It's also just a scene that is thrown in there to get some scares. It has no importance to the overall story in any way. Another pacing issue I had with the movie was its ending. When John Krasinski's character dies, and then the children meet back up with Emily Blunt, we get a sense of finality and question, because we still know that there are more creatures out there that could be hunting them as the scene progresses. But the scene goes on for around 10 more minutes, and gives us that exact same feeling by the end of it. This makes us feel like the whole ending was pointless, except for the fact that it shows us that the creatures really can die, when Emily Blunt shoots one of the creatures with a shotgun, when it exposes its raw body after its armor gets forcefully lifted off due to the high-pitched noise that the daughter's hearing aids make. Which sucks, because if the movie had ended 10 minutes before, we would have never known that the things could even die in the first place, which would have been awesome. It would leave us with a sense of curiosity, and would still be as open to a sequel as the ending we have now is. So it really feels like the ending is just a waste. So those are the big things I realized when watching the movie for a second time. I know there was more I had noticed when I was watching the movie, but I was too busy enjoying myself due to the fact I was watching it with my best friend, and that the movie itself is still genuinely entertaining. So after a second viewing, I would rate this film a 5 or 6 out of 10, depending on how I'm feeling that day. So go see A Quiet Place and please enjoy the heck out of it while you're doing so.